Oh, all right. We'll talk about the Tennessee Titans trading down in the first round on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is a mailbag episode. I'm answering your questions. We're going to talk about the Titans trading down in the first round. I'm going to give you some of my NFL draft hot takes, and what question would I ask Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan if they were on True Serum? I'm going to get into all of that before I do. Thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday. Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed to the #1 Tennessee Titans podcast in the world. Throw a thumbs up on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do this thing without you. Let me know who you are down below. Before we dive into your mailbag questions, though, do want to let you guys know Joe Alt had his official visit with the Tennessee Titans. Again, my #1 option for the Titans in the draft. The Titans drafted 4 guys who they visited with last year. So definitely something to watch. Good to hear. I'm going to do a deep dive into Joe Alt, his film, him as a prospect on Monday's show. And then on Tuesday, we'll dive into the entire offensive tackle class as we kick off the 2024 Locked On Titans NFL Draft Preview Series. So a lot of great content coming your way. Again, get subscribed, stay subscribed. But diving into your questions, and a lot of the questions were about trades and trading back in the draft. And the first question that I have here came from Chad Davis. And he said, is there any situation you would consider trading back? All right, guys, I have been very open about the fact that I do not want the Tennessee Titans to trade back in the first round. But the situation and the scenario that it would take for me to be okay with it looks like this. Only 2 quarterbacks in the top 6. If Caleb Williams goes first and Jaden Daniels goes second, and for some reason, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Chargers, the Giants, the Minnesota Vikings, the Denver Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders, if none of those teams trade up and only 2 quarterbacks go in the top 6, and that means that Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze are off the board, then yes, I would trade down. You guys win. You got me. All right. If only 2 quarterbacks go in the first 6, that means that Drake May and J.J. McCarthy are still on the board at 7. There are going to be teams desperate in Minnesota, Denver, Vegas. They're going to be desperate to get up there and get one of those quarterbacks. And the Titans' return on that trade is going to be way higher than what it would be if a team was trading up not for a quarterback. So to me, the only scenario where I would be okay with a trade down at #7 is if only 2 quarterbacks go in the top 6. But that ain't happening, folks. There's a better chance that 4 quarterbacks go in the top 6 than only 2 go in the top 6. So it's just an unrealistic scenario. Never going to happen. So I don't want the Titans to trade down. Gumbungus said, should we pull a 2023 Texans and give up our 2nd rounder and a future 1st rounder to move up into the 1st round again and get aggressive with this draft class? I got to tell you, while it would be dangerous, if the Titans really like one of those edge rushers and they want to get Joe Alt with their first pick, and then they want to move up from 38 back into the 1st round to get, a Jared Verse or a Latham or something like that, or if they really covet one of the receivers and they want to add them, I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, I think it would be a dangerous game to play because the Titans need more draft picks, so a trade up doesn't really make sense to me. But, I guess if the Titans really, really like another prospect and they want to make a move up, I want to see who it is. But I'm not going to completely say that that is a bad move right off the start. Hunter Thorpe says, if we trade back to 11 to 14, what 3 players would you like to take? I'll give you 4. Fashanu, Fuanga, Latham. Those are 3 offensive tackles that I would like. And if Odunze is still there at number 11, I'm absolutely willing to take him if the Titans do trade back. I don't think Odunze would be there, and I think one of those offensive tackles out of those 3 probably isn't there. But if the Titans trade back, the reason that they're doing it is because they aren't as high on Joe Alt, and they like another tackle better. And they know that they can drop back, get some additional draft capital, and draft their number 1 offensive tackle. So to me, it would have to be one of those offensive tackles. But if Odunze is there too, I'm in for that. Luke Miller said, what would the haul have to be for you to trade back in the draft? Guys, at the end of the day, like Hunter just pointed out, if the Titans trade from 7 back to 11, 12, 13, 14, I want a first-round pick next year. Why would you let another team come up without getting that? I see some people who cover the Titans saying, oh, I'd like to drop back for a 3rd-round pick. If you go from 7 to 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 and all you get is pick 72 or pick 80 or whatever, then the Titans are morons, all right? Why are people rooting for the Titans to get fleeced in a trade down? They miss out on Joe Alt and they get fleeced? Why are people rooting for this? It doesn't make any sense. I expect that from maybe some casual fans, but people who cover the team are rooting for that? Oh, my God. Absolutely ridiculous. So it better include a 1st-round pick or 2 second-round picks, I will say. And then Reaper says, Alt, Neighbors, Odunze are all gone before 7. I'm going to include Marvin Harrison Jr. in that because, duh, you just take Marvin Harrison Jr. But like I said earlier, this is a completely unrealistic scenario. That would mean that only 2 quarterbacks go in the top 6. That is not happening, folks. It's just simply not happening. So, and if you think it is, let me know down in the comments, and I will bet you any money that you are willing to lose, and I will gladly take that Venmo or that cash out from you on draft day because you deserve to lose your money if you're dumb enough to think only 2 quarterbacks go in the top 6. So, anyways, if they stay and pick, who's your choice? All right, you made it tough. Oh, man. I would probably go with Olu Fashanu. That's what I would do at that point. If I had to stick and pick at 7 and the top 4 position players are off the board, I'll just go with Olu Fashanu. That's kind of how I feel about the trade back situation, guys. Again, I do not want the Tennessee Titans to trade back at 7 because I know that 3 quarterbacks at minimum are going before the Titans pick, and that means that they will get one of Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, or Rome Odunze. And I'm taking the blue chip prospect. Think about this. Someone said this to me on Twitter, and shout out to you. I'm sorry, I forget who it was. I retweeted it, though. Oh, my guy, Canadian Titan, Ethan. He says, the Titans, a bunch of fans wanted the Titans to tank last year so that they could get a premium draft pick, to draft a premium prospect. And now a lot of those same people are arguing to trade back. It doesn't make any sense. We sacrificed a good season last year. We went through the pain of a bad season last year so that we could get a Joe Alt, a Malik Neighbors, a Rome Odunze. Do not pass that opportunity up because you want pick 80 or pick 72. It doesn't make any sense. But with that being said, more NFL draft hot takes coming your way. Great mailbag questions ahead. Before we dive into it, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, stuff I've never even heard of. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Titans fans, let's continue today's mailbag edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, answering your guys' questions. We just talked about the Titans trade back options in the first round. I'm against it, but wanted to dive into it for you guys. You got me, fine. You got me. I talked about it. Now I want to get into some of my other NFL draft takes in general, rankings at certain positions, hot takes, things that maybe not everybody's saying out there that I believe. And then at the end of the show, we got some more general questions about the Tennessee Titans, how I rank the AFC South teams at this point in the offseason, questions I would ask for Rancart Thon and Brian Callahan. Good stuff there. Before I get into it, thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. It is the #1 Tennessee Titans podcast in the world. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. Again, it's your team every day. Next episode, we're going to be doing a Joe Alt deep dive. He did have his visit with the Tennessee Titans. I got a lot to say about Joe Alt. And then we'll start our NFL draft preview series on Tuesday's show, talking about the offensive tackle class as we sit just a couple of weeks away from the NFL draft. Cannot wait. But diving in here, the next question I have is from Cody Weath. Shout out to Cody. Cody always sends in a bunch of questions. He's got another one later on. He says, what is your NFL draft hot take? And for me, it's, as the Tennessee Titans, not other teams, I'm not saying for every team in the NFL, I'm saying for the Tennessee Titans, I would not take Brock Bowers in the first round. If Brock Bowers is there in the second round, sure, pick him up. That's basically like drafting a wide receiver at that point. I could accept that. But I am not taking Brock Bowers in the first round at any point in time whatsoever. For the Titans, of course. Other teams, if the Jets want to take him at 10, the Colts want to take him at 15, the Bengals at 18. There are other teams out there that would be interested. Sure, but tight ends are a luxury pick, and the Titans need wide receiver, offensive tackle. They could add an edge rusher. They could even add another cornerback. Like, the Titans have issues at premium positions. They can't afford to take running backs and tight ends and middle linebackers in the first round. Can't do that, all right? Moving forward. Oh, also, no trade back. I don't want to trade back in the first round. That's a hot take, right? I know a lot of you guys think they should. So Ryan Stonehouse's spokesman said receiver or D-line with the second pick. Well, D-line doesn't cover it for me because I'm not taking an interior defensive lineman with the second round pick. I'm not doing that. I don't want a run stuffing nose tackle or a 3-technique defensive tackle when that's what Jeffrey Simmons does and you're paying him $100 million. If they want to take an edge in the second round, then sure, then I understand that. At this point in the draft, honestly, it just depends on who's there. Because if, A.D. Mitchell is there in the second round, I'm taking him over any of the edge rushers. No question. Even a Ladd McConkey, I would consider taking him over any of the edge rushers. But for the edge rushers, I like Edgerrin Cooper. That's a middle linebacker. Sorry, I meant Chris Braswell from Alabama. Also, Darius Robinson, who had a visit with the Tennessee Titans as well, who's an inside-outside rusher. Marshawn Kneeland, I would want to trade back in the second round to take Marshawn Kneeland, if I'm honest, maybe back into the 50s to do that, but that would be an option. Honestly, right now, based on who I think is going to be there, I would probably lean receiver still. Bryce Tubbs says, I see a lot of people's mock drafts not having us take any receivers until late or none at all. Are you still adamant about wide receiver at 7 or 38? No, I wouldn't say adamant. Like I was just saying, if certain wide receivers are off the board and the Titans want to prioritize edge rusher, I'm totally fine with that. In my opinion, quarterback is the most important position in the NFL. Pass rusher is second, though. Like edge pass rusher or interior pass rusher, like a Jeffrey Simmons, Chris Jones type of player, Aaron Donald type of player, or you could add edge rushers in there as well. Guys who rush the passer very well are the second most important. You have the passer, you have the pass rusher. Then you have the guy who blocks the pass rusher, offensive tackle, and then you have the wide receiver who catches the passes, and then you have the cornerback who guards the guys who catches the passes. So those are all pass rushing, passing, pass blocking. Those are the most important things in the NFL. And if you look at the correlation of wins, it plays out in the data as well. Pass offense and pass defense are far more important than run defense and run offense. It's not even close over the last 10 to 15 years in the NFL. The data proves it out. If you don't believe me, hit me up on Twitter. I have the tweet saved with the data. I'll show it to you. All right. Eric Callahan, and I'm calling you Eric Callahan because I'm not saying your Twitter name on the show. But Eric Callahan says, top 5 wide receivers in the draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, Brian Thomas Jr., A.D. Mitchell. Those are my top 5. And you'll learn, and my everydayers and every years probably already know, I value size in the NFL. I admit that I am not as high on smaller players, like these small, tiny wide receivers. Not as big of a fan. I prefer bigger people. It's a big man sport. Matt McMurray said, if we get Alt in round 1, can you give us your perfect round 2 scenario for both offense and defense? Offense, Adonai Mitchell. Defense, this is unrealistic, but it would be ideal. I always mess up the first name, but Latu, the edge rusher from UCLA, that would be awesome if he has some medical concerns in his past, like Jalen Phillips for the Dolphins. He ain't getting there, but that would be perfect. So I'll go A.D. Mitchell and Latu. If you want more realistic, then I will say Braswell and my perfect wide receiver there. Man, it's tough. I'll say Ladd McConkey. I'll go with that as people I think that are actually going to be there. Aaron Wilson says, also Matt McMurray asked who's the top rated inside linebacker that could be there in the mid rounds. I like Edgerrin Cooper. And Cedric Gray would be an option as well. Aaron Wilson, favorite player in the draft for absolutely no reason. Talking day 3 guys. Tanner Bortolini is someone he said. I like Tanner Bortolini. I would put him in mind. Braylon Allen, the running back out of Wisconsin. I don't know why, but I just love him. I think he's going to be a stud. And then Dominique Hampton, the safety out of Washington. I just want anybody off that Washington team. Dominique Hampton is 6'3", over 200 pounds, athletic freak, can come in, play special teams, and then develop. Late round pick. I would love Dominique Hampton for the Titans. Smiley Fingers said, would love to see Sweat, it's talking about Tavondre Sweat from Texas, on the line. Do you think an edge rusher is more important than a nose guard? I got to tell you, I do not like Tavondre Sweat. I do not want the Titans to draft him. You absolutely do not draft an interior defensive lineman with limited pass rush potential in the top 50 picks. I talked to James Foster from No Flags Film, who does great film work for the Titans and great film work for the NFL in general. And that's what he said to me, and I agree with him 100%. Edge rusher is by far, Smiley, edge rusher is by far more important than nose tackle. Nose tackles play 2 downs, and then they come off the field. An edge rusher not only plays 3 downs, but he's the one charged with getting after these quarterbacks in the NFL. Edge rusher, like I said earlier, is my second most important position in the NFL. Nose tackle is my least important position in the NFL. So that's not even close, man. That's comparing quarterback to running back to me. It's just not even close. Edge rusher is at the top. Nose tackle is at the bottom. No Cap Titan says, what are your draft hits and misses? All right, I'll tell you. Some of my big hits, Des Fitzpatrick. I said that Des Fitzpatrick was terrible, and that was a terrible pick immediately. This isn't hindsight. I literally have a video 30 seconds after the pick was made. Lived in my old house. Good times. Totally different setup. Man, things have really changed. Thank you all for that. But I knew Des Fitzpatrick was a bum, and he was a bum. Chikakonkwo was one of my big hits. I said that the Titans should go out and draft. Again, this is live on camera for the Locked On Network in the middle of the draft. After the Titans picked Rashad Weaver and Elijah Molden, I may have my drafts mixed up, but the Titans made their 4th round pick, and I said the Titans have to go out and get Chikakonkwo in the 5th round, and that's exactly what they did. Kevin Byard is my favorite Tennessee Titan of all time. I didn't cover the Tennessee Titans back in 2016 when Kevin Byard was drafted, but if you want, I'll get my brother on here to tell you. I called him in the 3rd round when they drafted Byard, and I said, bro, this dude's going to be an all-pro. This dude is going to be the best safety in the history of this franchise. I just knew it. I just had a feeling, and that's part of the reason why I love Kevin Byard so much, because I knew it right away. I just knew it, and he delivered for me. We'll say this based on C.J. Stroud. I had C.J. Stroud as the number 1 quarterback in last year's draft by far. He was clearly the best quarterback out of the 4 top quarterbacks, and he definitely still is. My big misses, Traylon Burks, Dylan Radins, I just got too high on those guys and how they could fit with the Titans. Burks especially, man. I really missed on Burks and what his ability was as a route runner and what he could do. Dylan Radins as well, although I might not be wrong. I might just be early on that. Let's see. And then Matt Corral, the quarterback out of Ole Miss, when the Locked On did the Locked On mock draft for Matt Corral, or for his year, I picked Matt Corral for the Titans at pick number 26. I think that it was. Boy, was I wrong on that. My God. Finally, No Cap Titans also says, I saw Rome Odunze get compared to Devontae Adams and Neighbors get compared to Chase. Do you agree with those comparisons at all? In some ways. Rome Odunze has a great release package at the line of scrimmage, which is something that Devontae Adams is known for. And then the explosiveness, the height, weight, speed situation of Jamar Chase compared to Malik Neighbors is very similar. Do I think they're those guys? Not necessarily, but I do understand the comparisons. When we do comparisons with NFL prospects for the draft, I think it's best to have a floor, like at their worst, who are they going to be like? Realistic, like if they're good but not great, who could they be like? And then their ceiling, if they turn out to be the best version of themselves, who would they be like? So I think that you could say the ceiling for Rome Odunze is Devontae Adams. The ceiling for Malik Neighbors is Jamar Chase. I think that would be fair to say, but we're going to move forward. More conversations to have, more questions to answer. Before we do, though, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, which you should, you could still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. The offer is good through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim is of Q1 2024, validated by the Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold from 1 year from the first date of your first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. It is a mailbag episode. Thank you all so much for sending in your questions. I got more questions to answer. We talked about the draft a ton, but now we got some more team roster related items to get into, some free agency stuff as well. Before I get into it, thanks again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Do want to take a moment and say this. I thank you all so much for the questions that you send in. I remember when I first started doing the show, I was scared. I was scared to do a mailbag episode because I was worried that if I asked for mailbag questions, no one would give me any. So I was terrified to even ask because I felt that I would be made to look like a fool because people wouldn't even respond. But now when I ask for mailbag questions, I mean, I got 40 mailbag questions in 2 hours on Twitter on Thursday morning. So like, I cannot. The show needs to be 30, 35 minutes or less. That is a network requirement. I can't go 45 minutes to an hour and answer all of these questions. So if I didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry. Trust me when I say that I agonize over the questions that come through after I've recorded or after I've made my notes and made my list. I'm so sorry if I can't get to your question, but there's just simply too many, and I am grateful for that. So thank you all so much. Even if I didn't get to your question, I saw it. I tried to respond. Thank you. But YouTube, don't worry. I'll do another mailbag for you guys here soon. But with that being said, let's dive back in. I'm going to rapid fire through some of these questions. Brock said, if you could have a candid conversation with Coach Callahan and general manager Ran Carthon about their all-season strategy, what would be your most pressing question? Number one, I would ask, who is their number one tackle in the NFL draft? I just want to know. And then number two, how much do you believe in Will Levis? Because the all-season tells me that they do, but I would like to hear it from them when they're on Truth Serum and know what they really think about Will Levis. Weasel Blaster says, this question is for a mailbag episode. What do you think Will Levis's upside is if he develops all the way? A lot of people say Matthew Stafford. I think he's got more juice as a runner. I've said it before, and people shudder when I say this, but I think that Will Levis is like Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz got hurt, and it ruined his career. But if you go back and look at like 2018 or 2017 Carson Wentz, 2018 Carson Wentz, 2019 Carson Wentz, like he was insane, man. He could run. He threw bombs. He was tough. He was aggressive. Before he tore his ACL the year they won the Super Bowl, Carson Wentz was the MVP of the NFL. So I think the good version of Carson Wentz is what Will Levis could be at his best. I know some people don't understand that that's a compliment, but it is. Jackson Fusting says, how much do you think the additions in the secondary will help Will Levis's development since he'll have to face them in practice? Jackson, that is such a great observation. I mean, just an excellent observation. I think it'll help a ton to have great cornerbacks that you have to test and that can take you to the woodshed. Mailman says, assuming a healthy season, is it unreasonable to expect Levis to have the franchise's first 4,000-yard passing season? Go back and look at the quarterback seasons that have been had under Brian Callahan, whether he's a quarterback coach or the OC or whatever. He produces 4,000-yard passers. That is not unreasonable, and I think that it, in fact, should be expected that he throws for 4,000 yards. Titans fan 86 says, which one is the more important addition, Ridley or Snead? I know Snead is a better player, but it seems this year's main priority is making sure Levis is QB1 going forward. Adding Ridley makes it an easier evaluation. I agree with you. I'll go with Calvin Ridley. Tighten Up Tweet says, if you were to sign 2 free agents, who would it be and why? Justin Simmons. The Titans need a good player at safety. And then Mekhi Becton. He's just the most upside of any veteran offensive tackle left, even if I don't really like him that much. Miles G, my guy Miles G, said, what do you expect to happen at safety? What do you want to happen at safety? I think the Titans draft a guy late in the draft, and then I think they sign a veteran later in the summer. And speaking of veterans, Boogie on them said former safety in Denard Wilson's defense, Ashton Davis, Jamal Adams. Realistically, what are the chances we show interest? I really am not interested in Jamal Adams. He's not a safety. He's a linebacker now. He cannot cover anyone. And honestly, all he does well is blitz. So he's a defensive lineman to me. He's not a safety. Ashton Davis, interesting. But yeah, I would prefer Justin Simmons. I would prefer Marcus May to both of those guys. And Marcus May is a guy who has played in D. Will's defense before as well. So keep that in mind. Ashton Kennedy said, who is your sleeper pick for a breakout this year? I'll go Roger McCreary. Roger McCreary was excellent last year, but people still don't realize it. I think he'll be known as one of the best slot corners in the NFL now that he has some help. And Chig started to break back out last year at the back half of the year. People hating on Chig are in for a rude awakening when he's in a good offense. Nash Thrill says, Tyler, which defensive player from last year do you think will benefit the most under Denard Wilson? I will go with Amani Hooker. I think it'll allow Amani Hooker to patrol the back end more and get more interceptions, which is what he does best. Gabriel Pitcher, shout out Gabriel, had me on his show once. Thank you. He said, Caleb Farley, relief pitcher at cornerback. Man, just don't get your heart too caught in that. I'm sorry. I want Caleb Farley to succeed more than anyone. He's been through so much. I feel so bad for that dude and what's happened in his life over the last 5 years. But I just don't see it, man. Sadly, I don't think that he's ever going to be a contributor of any kind. I think after the Titans get rid of him, either after this year or before this year, he'll be out of the NFL. If DeAndre Hopkins has a good 2024, do the Titans give him a second contract? I think that they would, but I think that he would move on at that point. He'll be 33 years old. I think he'll do some ring chasing at that point. Everett R. said, could you see anyone else being cut from the roster? I think Daniel Brunskill because of Dylan Radins at guard, Sadiq Charles at guard. If they draft another interior offensive lineman, Brunskill is good, but he has trouble staying healthy late in the season, and he could save $2 million if they cut him. Rashad Weaver on defense. I think if the Titans do load up on edge and interior defensive line in the draft, then I think Weaver could be an odd man out. Shakir said, Tyler, do you think this roster is good or getting there? It's getting there. Let's see what they do in the draft. What do you see our record being against the AFC South next year with the current state of the team? They don't have any offensive tackles. They have a ton of spots open on defense. I would say the Titans would go 3-3 in the division next year. I think they beat the Colts twice. I think that they would beat Jacksonville. Actually, I'll say they beat Jacksonville twice, beat the Colts once, and lose to the Texans twice. So there we go. What do you hope the new stadium has that the old one does not? A better environment. I went to a Titans game when they played the Cowboys, not this year, but last year. And I mean, it is a retirement home in there. People don't stand up. People don't yell. People don't cheer. I had a few people asking me to sit down, like a 60-year-old man behind me asking me to sit down during the big parts of the game. Like, wake up, Nashville. What are we doing? I was very disappointed with the fan experience in the end zone against the Cowboys. And then Josh Murbitz, my guy Josh, since day one. Appreciate you, dog. He said, non-football related, any big plans for you this summer? I'm going to Disney World, baby. I'm going to Disney World later in the summer, and I just plan to play a lot of golf. I'm a competitor. I love to compete, and I'm too old to play basketball anymore. I suck at baseball. I've never been good at baseball or softball, so I don't want to play that anymore because it sucks. I suck at it. So would like to play a ton of golf, which I plan to do. New clubs on their way right now. Callaway AI Smokes. Let's go. All right, I'm talking about my golf game. That's how I know it's time to go. That's going to do it for me today. That's going to do it for me this week. Ladies and gentlemen, again, next week, kicking off the draft preview series, deep dive into Joe Alt. Don't miss it. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.